Great. So as you can see here, we have a very exciting lineup today. So first off, we have GRP's CEO, Jesper Hörnberg, who will provide an introduction to GRP. Thereafter, we have Sheila Patel from Spark, and then Joseph Muturi from SDI, which will provide you with opening remarks. And thereafter, we have Ashali Bandari from Transitions Research, which will present the policy and investment brief from informality to impact. And next on, we have GRP's Gerald David, which will introduce you to the RISE challenge. And as you can see here, the webinar will end with a Q&A session where you're welcome to raise your hand and ask questions. And also during the whole webinar, you can type your question here in the Q&A box. And my colleagues Simone or Gerald will either respond to them directly or they will be marked and we will cover them in the Q&A session in the end. So also I want to highlight that this session will be recorded, as you might have seen, and we will share it afterwards. And also in the chat, I will share a link to GRP's website and the challenge guidelines. So now I hope I've covered everything. So please, over to you, Jesper.
Thank you, Linnea. A pleasure to see so many people turn up for this webinar, and I know that people are still dropping in. Who are we? Well, the Global Resilience Partnership works with resilience, and we focus a lot on not resilience in the sense of bouncing back, but really in the transformative capacity that's needed to not just bounce back, but also find yourself in a new and much improved position. Coming back to square one is not good enough. Now, with that, could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. We were established a bit over 10 years ago. We're a partnership, so we have more than 90 partners at the moment. We work on innovation, on knowledge and policy, and that's also how we organize our work internally. But we work a lot cross team, which is really evident in the presentation that will follow here. Next slide, please. 90 plus partners, a lot of social media followers. We've invested, I think the actual number is more than 47 million now in resilience programming across the Global South. We have something called the Resilience Hub, which is a pavilion at COP, but it's also events that happen at the New York Climate Week and London Climate Action Week. And we're gradually spreading that out to the other weeks, making it a little bit more focused on where the actual problems are. Next slide, please. We have a geographical focus. I know that this blue and the green, sometimes difficult to see the difference, but basically we have projects across the Global South. And we have one office in Stockholm and one in Cape Town. And then we have projects across the Global South, and we have people on 5 continents as well. So trying to be as spread out as possible. So basically the GRP people you see on this call, we're sitting in very different locations. That's on purpose. Next slide, please. Oh, that's me. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm handing over to Sheila, I think.
Yes, thank you so much, Jesper. Over to you, Sheila. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I don't have slides, but I hope that I will be able to share the concerns and strategies and requirements that we have to address the challenge of informality. It's very clear to me, first of all, that for those of you who are not familiar with GRP, that it's an amazing network that helps not only people from different geographies to connect with each other, but also supports each one of you to do this process in a way that not only informs and enriches what you do, but also supports what you feel you need to amplify and work across. So for me, just getting the challenges of informality into the mainstream process of the champions team came out of the work we did with GRP. And this is very critical for the building up of resilience amongst those who are living informally, often illegally, and definitely invisibly in terms of policy. Because everybody talks about the generics of the poor, the vulnerable, but there is no specificity, there is no focus, and there is no depth of delivery for people who are living in this case. And the fact is that there are more than 1 billion people already living informally. Most of them have no land tenure, they don't have basic services, their homes are morphed out of the kind of house they lived in villages. And there is a dire need for them to get access to the city, to get security, to have their homes and their environments in some way prepared for the extreme weather that we are already facing. In many parts of the world, temperatures are already rising to amazing levels. And so the connection of this extreme weather on their homes, on their livelihoods, on their health, their food supply chains, everything has to be connected and brought together. And a strategy has to be developed in a way that their survival strategies, and we must respect those and acknowledge them, not only because they exist, but that is the basis on which they survive. So we have to look at how those of us who are professionals engaged in this process work in partnership with communities to pick out the smart things that they're already doing and connect them to the knowledge framework that we have, which comes out of technology, science, research, and work that is done in other parts of the world. And so it's very, very important that the GRP becomes a very important location to embed this knowledge, because then it goes beyond your constituency or your process. And the aspect of bringing in this particular challenge for me within the GRP homestead is that you will have access to an amazing range of people who work globally, nationally, locally. And whether you attend the events that GRP does, you can still have your message there, which will be strongly championed and promoted and networked with. So it's very, very important that as many of you as can connect to the challenges of informality, you do that. And I hope that GRP, that you get lots and lots of different projects and we all contribute to the interconnectedness and the learning in the process. So I'm with you for that. I'm an old hand now in GRP, and I absolutely think your team is fantastic. So back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sheila. I believe we're still waiting for Joe to join. So over to you, Ashali. Thank you.
Thanks. So, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Ashali. I'm the managing director of Full People's Urban Living Lab at an organization called Transitions Research. Last year, we worked with GRP to put together the policy and investment brief from informality to impact. And we wanted to understand the landscape of resilient solutions being implemented in informal contexts in cities in the global south. We asked questions like what types of solutions are being implemented, who is implementing them, what are the opportunities and challenges that exist, and how can the funding landscape support them. So I have a really quick presentation to walk you through what we've learned. Of course, this presentation can't do justice to the whole thing, so please take a look, read it. Maybe I can put it in the chat after I'm done, and y'all can all go ahead. So next slide, please. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of context as to why this is important, especially in the context of cities. Cities are hotspots of climate risks, and even within the landscape of one city, the risk is uneven. Across the globe, 1 billion people live in informal settlements, and 2 billion people are working in informal jobs. These communities are the most vulnerable to risks like flooding, heat, cyclones, and other climate risks. They face the triple challenge of high exposure to climate-induced events, greater susceptibility to damages from these events, and of course, a limited capacity to cope and recover. But we see that there's a massive funding gap for adaptation. Only 1.2% of urban investments go towards adaptation and resilience, and these are largely focused on public works. Informal communities are largely left out. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we worked with the Global Resilience Partnership to understand what are the solutions that are already working, that are already being implemented, but are underfunded and overlooked, and how can we think about scaling them up? We conducted an online survey, a literature review, and even some interviews with implementing organizations and funders. So I wanted to share a few findings. The first is that while organizations work in different areas of resilience, there's variation in how for-profit organizations and not-for-profit organizations prioritize different thematic areas. The GRP has different categories of resilience solutions, as you can see on your screen, right? And we found that 72% of not-for-profit solutions focus on empowering marginalized groups, whereas for-profit are less active in this space. But on the other hand, 44% of for-profit solutions focus on information and technology interventions, which is an area where fewer not-for-profits are engaged. Next slide, please. But we also saw that solution maturity levels vary by organization type. Across the board, solutions in informal contexts are in an emerging novel testing phase, but this also varies across for-profit and not-for-profit organizations implementing them. 50% of for-profit organizations categorize their solutions as emerging solutions, meaning that they're still refining their offerings, right? But in contrast, not-for-profit organizations have more diversity. 34% of these organizations say their solution are in testing phase, but 35% also say that they are in the tested phase, suggesting a difference in the way that they operate. For-profits are more likely to focus on a single scalable product or service, and they're able to take it forward. Versus not-for-profits often develop multiple projects, which they scale at different levels and different times. We also found that resilience solutions contribute to a wide variety of goals. As you can see on the chart on the right, despite the primary goal being building resilience, many solutions also contributed to improve safety, improve capacity, livelihood opportunities, confirming that these solutions do much more than just addressing climate risk. They also focus on urgent development co-benefits. Next slide, please. So the last kind of insight that I want to bring your attention to is the fact that the funding landscape is diverse for resilient solutions. But even though organizations draw on multiple sources, philanthropy is the dominating, driving source of funding for organizations, for both for-profit and not-for-profit solutions. We found that philanthropic funding can actually act as a catalyst. And once this organization gets this funding, they're able to develop novel solutions and therefore more likely to be able to unlock international public finance or municipal grants to help scale. But we do see that across the board between not-for-profits and for-profit organizations, for-profits are slightly more likely to be able to seek private capital, loans, or equity. But across the board, this remains limited. So I have one last slide, and then I'll really just quickly wrap up. I won't spend too much time on it. But I thought that since a lot of you are here to learn more about more about the RISE challenge, I did want to quickly just talk about some of the recommendations and opportunities that we found in the report. And I'll just quickly cover these headings and we can get to it more in the Q&A. But the first is that it's really important that resilience solutions leverage local knowledge and community-driven approaches so that there's solutions are relevant for the communities you're working in, and you also build trust and ownership with your target audiences. We also found that it's really important to ensure that solutions leverage strategic partnerships, partnering with municipal agencies, microfinance, and even businesses can unlock new funding streams and allow scale. Digital tools are great. Everybody loves technology, but adoption of technology depends on usability, accessibility, and trust. So make sure your tools work for the context that you are catering to. And finally, if you're looking economic opportunities and skill building. So this is a great area to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashali. I see we have Joe here. Joe, are you happy to proceed? Present yourself, provide some opening remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, my apologies for coming a bit late. I think I had my calendar mixed up with somebody else, but I'm very glad to be here. My name is Joe Muturi. I'm president of the Slum Dwellers International Network. I also chair the board of Slum Dwellers International in Cape Town. I'm based in Nairobi. Basically, first of all, on behalf of the network, we are honored to be part of this. Thank you for the invite. And I also sit on the advisory board of the GRP. Just to share a little bit of my experience around climate and climate financing. In the last 3 years, my organization has been implementing a project funded by MOFA in the Netherlands. And basically, it was looking at how do you support local actors? How do you support resilience in communities? Because if you look at what is happening now, we hear a lot of resources being talked about climate financing. And I think for us, it was an opportunity to look at where the gaps are when it comes to climate finances, where the gaps are when it comes to supporting local actors and to amplify the local voices, to amplify the work that they are doing. And I think our experience has been varied. One of the things we also wanted to look at, what are the challenges that are faced by local communities in terms of the work, the resilience work they are doing? Because there are so many assumptions and there are so many bottlenecks, all these proposals to be written, you have to write all this, you have to do all this. But we wanted to change the narrative because most of the times you'll find that people specifically in informal areas, they don't have the technology or the know-how, on the knowledge to write all these proposals. They don't have all these requirements, the due diligence that has to be done. And we wanted to change the narrative. We wanted to, how do you get climate financing to the local communities who are doing resilience work? One or the other, they're involved in recycling, they are creating public spaces, they are in the built environment, they are looking at adaptation, they are looking at how do you, currently at the present time, how do you do housing, how do you bring in services, how do you use local materials just to change our communities. So one of the things we find out that, yes, there is a need for climate financing because at the moment we think there are so many brokers in between. And the little resources that are there, because the first application we did when we called out for a call, the call was supposed to be in probably 5 to 6 counties within Nairobi, but we received over 1,100 calls. Some of them came as far as Haiti and Somalia. It shows you how these resources are needed. And I think at the moment what we can say, there's still a lot of work to be done when it comes to supporting the communities, specifically around the work they're doing around informality and climate, the work they're doing around the connection between climate and health, climate and housing, climate and mental health. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think with the rice challenge, the opportunity is there. Even the little resources that we give, we realized this, that it was not enough because some requested, probably the support that was required was up to $5,000. And we could give only this much. So you find that a lot of initiatives that they had started, they couldn't follow through. And I think the rice challenge offers a unique opportunity. And we have already done, we requested groups and affiliates across the network to apply for it because there's a continuum in terms of building the capacity of the actors, in terms of also building the project, in terms of looking at the scale, in terms of looking at, so beyond the sustainability and beyond making the work that they are doing attractive to partners, is in terms of also the local context. Is it work that can be scaled, can be picked by the local government, by the national government, and scaled up, and can it also be replicated in other areas? So I think this creates a perfect opportunity, and I think there are so many lessons to learn from this in terms of how do you scale up, because most of the grants is a one-off, and you think we have solved all the problems, and we move on to the next one. But I think my time is up. Thank you very much, and again, my apologies for coming in late.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much. And now we move on to Simone Verkat, Program Director at JRP, to present the RISE Urban Challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Linnea, and welcome everyone. I'm standing in for Gerald here, so I'm hoping I'll do a good job. I'll never be as good as what Gerald does. Gerald, we miss you. But I'm here to speak. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you put your camera on so we can see you? Thank you.
Second. So we're talking about the Resilience Innovation through Scaling Entrepreneurship Challenge, also the Urban Challenge in short. Next slide, please. The objective of the RISE Urban Challenge is to convert ID and concept level innovative urban IDs that are meeting resilience needs in informality contexts and scale them to sustainable initiatives. Now, I've already been trying to answer a lot of the questions about what we mean by informality, and what we mean here is that it's about urban informal contexts. And I think we can have a whole webinar about defining this further, but that's it for now, and we can take more in the Q&A. The proposal should also focus on enhancing resilience to those most vulnerable to climate shocks and stresses, promoting gender equity and preserving biodiversity, while driving sustainable livelihoods and economic growth. Our priorities are locally led innovations that build resilience of women and youth. Next slide, please. So eligible initiatives can focus on solutions addressing the following themes, which include climate risk, resilience retrofit, urban migration and displacement, as well as water security. You'll find some examples in the challenge guidelines, which I also urge you to read in detail. And also you'll see there that we are not limited to these themes. So if you have a very great solution that you would want to share with us, please feel free and surprise us. Next slide, please. More specifically, the eligibility criteria include that the solution must address resilience needs in an urban informality context. Projects need to be implemented in ODA eligible countries by registered organizations, but we will include both non-profit and for-profit solutions. The main requirement is that you have a registered business, and that the project is implemented in ODA eligible country. If you wonder if the contract or the country where you want to implement is an ODA eligible country, we have the link to that in our guidelines. Please do be sure to check it because it gets updated annually. Another question or another eligibility criteria is that you need to have proven experience implementing innovative solutions for resilience. This one is a bit more subjective. We do want you to come with us with your best ideas. If you feel you have not yet implemented, but your idea is groundbreaking, please feel free to share. What we do encourage is that all gender equity and human rights considerations are taken into account. That's a requirement. And a minimum requirement is that it will not do harm, and it does not have a negative impact on communities or ecosystems where you're aiming to build resilience. Next slide. What the winners will receive, you will be connected to investors, receive communication support and tailored mentoring led by our mentors who have over 15 years of experience in entrepreneurship and investment readiness building. You will participate in a leadership academy with dedicated focus on personal development and group dynamics. We'll be organizing an investor forum and pitching sessions, either in person or virtually. And there are cash prizes up to $50,000 after the initial mentoring period and after attending the leadership academy. Next and final slide. If you're wondering how to apply, please visit our website. Then make sure to read the challenge guidelines first, and then there's an application form using the system submittable. The deadline is the 11th of April, 12 GMT. So please keep that in mind if you're in a different time zone. Email us with any of your questions at this email address, And feel free to reach out through Submittable as well for any technical support. Next slide. That's it. Now you'll get to ask questions through the Q&A. Back to you, Linnea.
Great. Thank you so much, Simona, and very nice for you jumping in. And yeah, so like I said in the beginning, this is the part of the session where we would very much like for you to raise your hand in order to ask your questions, but you can also type your questions in the Q&A chat box. Let me see if perhaps my colleague Ida can assist if we have any hands raised. And you can help unmute. Oh, yes, Auval, you have a question?
Yes, hello, good day, and thank you very much for having us here. So, my question is, for you to compete, what is the mode of submission? Um, are we presenting a document that explains how we solve all these problems, or are we going to support it with graphical design, maybe architectural design or engineering design or whatever design that we need to support our ideas in order to solve these challenging problems in urban cities. So that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering maybe if you, Simona, if you would like to respond to this, or I should give a go.
Please give a go or repeat the question as I'm also typing answers.
Oh, perhaps, sorry. So I think you said about how you can submit, and that if you go to our website, and I pasted also the challenge guidelines, so you submit via online form at Submittable. And the second part was, could you please repeat that about, sorry, please, can you repeat that as well? Thank you.
Okay. The second question is that do we only submit a written document, or can we support it with some form of design, some graphical design, something that the jury can see physically? Maybe we show them how we redesign the urban areas, or we show them how we can be able to mitigate those migration challenges, as well as climate change challenges. But we communicate it through some graphics, maybe some architectural design or some engineering designs. So I don't know if it's okay.
Yeah, I can try to answer that one. We work with a submittable system, which I think may allow you to upload, provide links, but to provide a fair and equal opportunity to all applicants, we will not take these into consideration, especially not during first screening, and maybe during a further, more detailed dive into your proposals. So we would prefer to make sure that you have as much information as can be covered in the normal written text format. There are some tables as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Simona. Hope we
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And let me see who's next. I think Patricia, if you have a question for us.
Yes, hi there. Thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify regarding the list of countries that are eligible. I was looking at the list a few days ago. So in terms of the ODA recipients, if we fall under the upper middle income, then we wouldn't be eligible. So there's the column that has the upper middle income countries.
That's so all of those countries listed at ODA recipients are eligible. Do you have
Okay.
a specific country in mind?
Yes, so it would be either Iraq or Colombia. So they're in the upper middle income part of the table.
Both of those are eligible. Yeah.
They are. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think
Thank you
any
so
country listed in this in the document that you'll find is eligible for
Sure.
ODA. If you're in doubt, then please consult the ODA requirements. I think it's why we do have the link is that countries do graduate year by year. So at some
Yeah.
point, maybe next year or a year after, they would no longer be eligible. But for now, both these countries definitely are eligible.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Patricia. Yes, I see we have Melanie. Do you have a question?
Hello. Yes, I do have a question. I wanted to find out, for the grants, how many 50,000 grants are going to go out to recipients? That's one question. And then the other, on the academy, and mentoring, is it going to be online, or will it be, we will receive mentorship where people come to our countries and mentor us from home? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Melanie. Also, sorry, checking all of this will of course depend a bit. I think maybe Simona, you can remind me. So the prices are up to 50,000, and it's not set exactly how many. Will also depend on how much there will be. And let me see. So the second question was it about Leadership Academy? Pardon?
Yes, it was.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this is because of this is a global challenge. It will be virtual for the RISE.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Linnea, I can answer the other question, and also one question I appointed for being answered live because I couldn't find it in the guidelines. But we are aiming to have 10 to 5 winning solutions. And I think I've seen some questions on this as well, while the maximum price is up to $50,000, it's also because we are an ID stage grant competition. It will be more likely that the actual price amounts range between $10,000 to $30,000 for this first year of implementation, with possibilities for further onward granting. We have a lot of hands, Linnea, so I'm hoping I'll let you answer those, and otherwise maybe Jesper or Ida can jump in to answer the others, and I'll type away because I have 25 questions left.
Okay, great. Thank you, Simona. Yeah, Kinjal, do you have a question?
Yeah, hi. I am from India and we are an NGO working here in Ahmedabad. So I have two quick questions. One is I've already asked in the chat that we are a new organization. We are working since 2.5 years. So in India, we are not still eligible for applying for a foreign contribution bank account FCRA. So are we eligible for the challenge? That's one question. And I have a second question that we have an experience of the partner organization which works with us. We have an experience of around 25 years of urban transportation, and transportation is a very big challenge for informal sector because they are not able to access the livelihood of sector. So if there are innovative solutions which can either enable them or fund their transportation, will that be because of various factors, if they are staying in a shanty area near to the workplace, those kind of assessments and innovative solutions, is that eligible for such challenge?
Great, thank you. So your first question, so our guidelines we have, the only thing that is needed is for an organization to be registered. It's not allowed to be for an individual, so to say. But I'm not really sure, not really expert within this example. So you said about the FCDA to apply for, sorry, Kinjal, yes.
Yeah, so we are registered in India. We
Oh.
have a registered organization. That's not a problem. But the FCRA requirement is for the NGO to receive foreign funds in India,
Okay.
which needs more than 3 years of experience.
Okay. Yeah. Perhaps we can get back to you on that. I can consult with my colleagues who work more in India, because I'm not so sure about that. But so for the requirements for this call, it's only to be a registered company.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. And then I was wondering perhaps if Jesper could reply on the transportation question, if you are there.
For sure. Could you just repeat the question? Because I'm going through the Q&A here, trying to answer as well. What was the question?
Yeah, so my question was that the people living in informal sector, they really have faced the challenge of commuting to their livelihood places. So that challenge, if we can see how innovative solutions or funding mechanisms can be arranged for them. For example, women do not have access to cycle in India because a house owns a cycle and only the male drives the cycle. So if there is a funding mechanism which reduces the cost of cycle or enables them to use these transportation options, or doing a policy or a funding or a budget analysis saying that which areas are more susceptible and needs more funding for equipping urban informal sectors for transportation. If that idea sinks in, because climate change is definitely rendering them to be more sick, not able to commute to their places, extreme heat, people walk and they cannot walk, their number of days are reduced, their wages are decreased. So, if these challenges can be addressed through providing transportation or innovative solutions like greening the areas of transportation, which reduces their heat stress, so can these solutions be worked out?
If you're talking about the actual the solutions to address that, then yes, that does qualify. There is a very strong correlation between mobility and equity and equality, which has been seen in many places. So increasing mobility has huge impacts on that, which is linked to resilience. So I'm not saying yes to the proposal, but yes, in theory, that would be something we would look at.
So the solution has to be implemented, or it can be worked out like 20 solutions which we are trying out, and we are trying to bring in the solutions in a pattern which can be accessed by different people.
I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, I understood what you said, but it depends. It depends on what it is that you're proposing, and that's what we will look at, or the team will look at. And then we're looking for what has the potential to actually work and have the desired impact. That's sort of the criteria we would look at. But I would recommend that you look at the criteria for the scoring criteria, and they're in the guidelines. I tried to share the guidelines again for anyone who joined late, but I can't send it to the wider group. So maybe, Linnea, you could just post them to all the attendees. Just if you follow those and read those and answer those questions, and if you feel that you've answered those questions, I'm sure you've responded well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Jesper and Kinjal. I see Enrique has your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me? Great. So this is Enrique from Inca. Well, it was partially already answered on the Q&A, but just to make sure it's the right answer. So we're developing an energy solution in Northern Colombia, and we already tested both the technology and the social impact that we are doing, but in a small scale. And as we prepare for the deployment, we would like to refine that technology, that it's all done in-house. So the question was, can be the funds used also to that technology development, or they are strictly limited to the project implementation? I see that Simone already said that you would favor implementation. Would you maybe give a little bit more of the insights behind this?
Great, thank you, Enrique. I was wondering if Simona, if you're in the chat, or if you heard that and could respond, or if I could perhaps delegate this question to someone else.
Sorry, typing away. Can you repeat the name?
Yes, and I believe you responded to Enrique's question in the chat box, but he would like to some follow-up on the about the technology part. Pardon, let me see if I can find that chat.
I'm also looking. Sorry about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you
It's mainly to know between like technology development and implementation, how would that be beneficial for our applications? We know that implementation will be the majority of it, but the question is if it is allowed on, or do you envision maybe some of that being used also for the technology refinement?
It's certainly possible. I think we do have a slight preference for implementation projects over research projects. But I think it's more if you are needing to do research or further refine your technology, and that will enable you to reach more people, and you can report it by setting the targets, then we would definitely take it into consideration. Hope it answers your question.
Yes, great, thank you.
All right.
Great, thank you so much, Enrique, Simona. I see Mary. Do you have your hand up?
As we wait for that question, I just wanted to clarify that organic waste management is not necessarily one of our priority focuses. So if you would want to work on that, please clearly identify the urban informality context. But this is for another question which I have proposed. Sorry, Mary, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Miri Moroki from Nairobi, Kenya. I saw Joe Muturi is from Nairobi, Kenya, and I would love to connect with him. Yeah, my question goes to how do you define resilience? And secondly, I have seen you're also open to other sectors, and currently I'm serving as a fundraising intern at 10x Nutrition Kenya. So we deal majorly with fortified foods that we are serving underrepresented populations within the slums of Kenya. So will our project really be handy, or should we wait for another one? Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mary. Was wondering if Jesper, if you would like to respond to the first question about how we define resilience.
Absolutely, and thanks for repeating the question. I was typing away. Yeah, resilience. I'll start with what it's sort of is, but also what it's not. Resilience has very often been defined as the ability to withstand and sort of bounce back, right? That is not what we think about resilience. If that's all your initiative does, just coming back to square one, then we are looking for the transformative capacity, the transformation in the initiative, so that you can bounce back and recover, but maybe you don't recover the same route you came down, but you recover to a better place. If you think that just bouncing back, ending up at square one, is sort of probably useful to some extent, but it's also not what we want to achieve. And there's a lot more value and dignity in being able to transform and end up in a much better position than where you started before the shock or the stress. So it's about that transformative change. That's what we're looking. Good question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jesper. And your second question, Mary, was about you mentioned nutrition, but also mentioned that you worked in slums. Sorry, could you please repeat what's the second question again?
Yeah, so as I had said earlier, I'm a fundraising intern at 10x Nutrition, based in Nairobi, Kenya. So we produce fortified food products, which are basically snacks that most of the people in the slums take. And so my question is, for such a scenario, we also have a component of gender equity, whereby like 6 of our employees are women, and we're looking into women empowerment. So do we really qualify for that based on the themes that you had put on, in that you had said you're also open to other solutions that are outside? I think there were 5 of them. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. So yeah, sounds super interesting, but I'm just looking at our guidelines, which I recommend to everyone. I saw Ida posted again in the chat. So I think you can have a look at especially, the eligibility criteria. If you follow those, resilience needs in urban informality context. And yeah, so also the evaluation criteria, innovationness and so forth, to see. Very difficult to provide a response just here now, hearing you. Maybe my colleagues can jump in. But I would also say to everyone that please have a look at the guideline, please have a look, and it's it's always better to apply, I would say, than not. I'm not sure what you just would say, or Simona, but
All right, thank
I
you.
was typing again, sorry.
oh, sorry, yeah. Great. So hopefully, Mary, that was you responded to your question, or do you still have your hand up?
Lina, let's
No,
move along. We have like
okay.
14 more people asking questions. And I think maybe my point would be that we are happy to surprise. So if in doubt and you feel you're very strongly about your solution and it works in an urban informal context and is targeting that, then feel free to submit to us. I'm getting a lot of questions also about defining urban informality or urban informal context. We've chosen not to define this to death. So please interpret as you like. I'm not sure how we can be any clearer than that. And I feel that's probably the subject of a whole other webinar. So I'm not going to answer those questions anymore. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Simona. Yes, we have Peace. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Do you have a question? Perhaps we
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you. Do you have a
Sorry. Yeah, having slight connection problems. So I just want to say thank you everybody for your information and being willing to answer the repeated questions. So I will apologize if my questions are repeated. I'm Etsy from Ethiopia. I just had two questions. The first one is in terms of, how to best position ourselves. And I think, I'd appreciate some guidance on this. Do you have sort of minimum required target beneficiaries that would make the project viable in your eyes? Obviously, what we're trying to do is set something up and then have it grow so that the long-term impact is attractive. However, just in terms of guidance, and then following this application, do you have plans to increase the funding? Are we able to, look forward to other sort of from growth into maturation of the projects? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Very interesting questions. So the second question, I can already, I guess you meant for a second round or so forth, or increase. So we have, as we mentioned, the prices for this call. It's up to, like Simone said before, up to 50,000, but probably less than that. And we're not sure if for any future calls and so forth. And the first question about, let me see, about the minimum requirements. Let me see. Sorry, perhaps I can disturb you again, Simona, if you can be better at responding to this than me.
What is the question?
Yeah, about, sorry, Esa, could you repeat the first
Sure.
again? Thank you.
I was just asking for sort of your guidance or what your expectations are in terms of what would be the minimum viable number of beneficiaries for the project. And when we're as we're applying, also just because we're not able to meet that, it's not wasted, your time as well. But what would be the best or the recommended for you to feel that your investment is impactful?
There's definitely no minimum requirement for number of beneficiaries. I think for our rain challenge, which is also at the ID stage, we are welcoming projects that aim to target 100 beneficiaries maybe even less. It all depends on the innovativeness of your project as well. So if you have a very standardized project, then we would expect larger scale. If it's really new and cutting edge, then a more focused implementation would be welcome as well. Sorry, I know that's not super clear, but clearer than that I cannot be, unfortunately.
It's very clear. I'm happy with the response. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Simona. Okay, let me see. We have a second question. Narendra? Narendra, do you have a question? Ida, could you please, yeah, Augusto. Hi, do you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me? Perfect. Hi, good morning. Augusto here from Argentina. Yeah, I think that the answers might be answered during the Q&A, but I just want to double check. I wanted to know about actions plans around renewable energy access, for like communities during, you may say, like power shortage during floods. Something like that will be fit for this challenge?
Great question. Thank you. Perhaps Jesper, could you respond to this?
Yes, it might. It depends on how it addresses the resilience. But I mean, flooding, just like heat and a lot of other issues, are things that need to be addressed with regards to resilience. So it might, not knowing exactly what it is that you're proposing, but
Right.
yeah, measures against flooding for sure. Yes.
Perfect. I don't know if I can just quickly go like a mini brief. But it's basically like a BIPV solution. It will be like roofing materials that can generate power energy, photovoltaic energy, actually, that it will be more easily to install after the floods, something like that.
Yeah, it might. We need to understand more, and I'm not conscious that we have more people waiting here, but absolutely, it might very well. It might very well. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesper and Augusta. Veronica, do you have a question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So we have a solution for heating hot water with a biomass hot water heater. So it's a patented product, and it's addressing for this net zero carbon emissions, as we are using biomass and we are then burning it and giving it again to the environment. So there is no any harm. So can we address with that for the challenge, and is it qualified for the challenge?
My answer to that, sorry, Linnea, I'm just gonna do this now. I've stopped with the Q&A. I was told to stop with the Q&A, so probably a good idea. It might. What you need to do is look at how it builds the resilience, because what you described to me there is very useful in terms of the heating of water and so on. And then there's a mitigation impact using the biomass. There might be resilience in there too. I'd rather not explore that with you on this call, though, but there might be. So I would look at how it meets the innovation criteria with regard specifically to resilience as per the guidelines. And I'm very happy if you have any additional questions. There's the innovation email to send to, but it might very well do. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thanks, Jesper. And yeah, I also want to highlight to everyone, it's on our website, it is challenge, we have a challenge email. You can, if you remember any or come up with any questions after this session, you're always welcome to email that. Anatoly, do you have a question?
And I started my application, I think, 2 weeks ago. I've been really working with the draft, and unfortunately, when the time for submission reached, then the button froze, and I was kind of like helped through the contact email. So I was told to try different things, but I paused it because I needed also to go through this webinar. I thought it would be also another opportunity, and that's one. But also, I wanted to understand. I'm based in Uganda. If we've had people previous winners this side, and also understanding if there are other partners that you work with locally, or it's just mainstream your side. And also maybe I've seen another question around where people are saying, okay, 5 to 7 people that will be winning the award, and will each of these get from 10 to 50,000? Maybe you can clarify that. But thank you, I appreciate
it. There were quite a few questions in there. I'll take the ones that I remember, and then please repeat. Well, we have worked with projects in Uganda before, and through the Slum Dwellers International and Spark and so on. We have, obviously, there are other partners that are present on the ground. If your question is whether we have a preference for you to work with any of those, no. We're looking for new and innovative solutions, and the potential of those, and we will measure them against the criteria in the guidelines that have been shared in the chat and also on the website. Of course, there was a question in the Q&A about how we define innovation. Innovation is how it's defined. It's the introduction of something new. It could be a method. It could be a methodology. It could be a thing. It could be a gadget. It could be anything that, in this particular case, leads to resilience. It's the marriage between the innovation for building resilience. And resilience is what I talked about before, the transformative capacities. It needs to not just get people back to where they were, but what's being proposed has to have the potential to lead to a transformation. We are not looking for finished transformation. We're looking for the potential of. So we're talking early stage, but we're also talking if you have something that you think is just ready to sort of be scaled and it's very close to proof of concept, that's where we can step in and support you. So early stage up to a little bit more of maturity. The mentoring process is such that it's bespoke to what you need, and it's exploring your areas of strengths. How can you strengthen those more? It's working around the model. It's working around the weaknesses, addressing those weaknesses. So it's really trying to understand what it is that you're doing. So we are looking for the potential rather than the finished thing. Yeah, I think that hopefully answers your questions. Oh, we're at time.
Yes.
Okay, great, Anatoly. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Anatoly. Thank you, Jesper. And yes, sorry, we are out of time. I'm wondering, hopefully, thank you so much for your engagement and so many people joining. If you have further questions, please email the challenge email. And yeah, and we look forward to all of your application. And thank you so much for the panelists, everyone participating. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.